Should the Philadelphia Eagles trade Avonte Maddox? I know everybody's gonna probably be in the comments like, Joe, what are you smoking? What are you drinking? I'm not drunk. All right. Last night I had a couple shots, but today I feel good. I want to talk about this because honestly, we see Josiah Scott going out there. He's making some plays. So we're going to talk about this. That's the question. That's the question. So let's get into it.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today we are going to talk about a subject that people are mad that I'm bringing up, and I'm okay with that. I understand that. The question is, should the Philadelphia Eagles look at trading Avonte Maddox this offseason? Now, before we get into that, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. You know that, lottie-dottie. Look, I know that this is going to probably be a very tumultuous conversation. This is going to be one of those topics that people are like, why even bring it up? Because honestly, there ain't much else to talk about. So we're going to bring this up. Avonte Maddox obviously injured right now, and Josiah Scott obviously taking his spot. Josiah Scott's name has not been called that much, and he has played very well. So in my opinion, the question becomes, do you, if you have to look at the rest of this defense, right? Because we have a whole lot of one-year deals, right? A whole lot of one-year contracts. You look at James Bald-ass Bradbury, right? You look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You look at the defensive line, Javon Hargrave, and a couple others. You look at TJ Edwards. He's on his last year of his deal. So it becomes, obviously, you have Avonte Maddox locked down. Could his money turn into two others? So this is my thing. If Avonte Maddox is still here, I love Avonte Maddox, don't get me wrong. But if you can trade Avonte Maddox for like a third, maybe a second, late second, maybe an early third, something like that, something that's an obvious, not upgrade, but an obvious good deal, right? And then you can say, all right, now we can re-sign James Bradbury. Now we can re-sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Maybe it opens up a little bit more for you. I understand, and I totally get that. Avonte Maddox, his arrow is pointing up. His arrow is definitely pointing up. But in my opinion, when you look at what this team is, I think that we are benefiting way more, and so is Avonte Maddox benefiting way more from having two very good outside corners and a good safety. Right? You have that help over top now for Avonte Maddox. And don't get me wrong, Avonte Maddox's seasons have been very good. He has consistently gotten better, especially at the slot. But that's really all he can do. We've seen him go outside. We've seen him at the outside cornerback position. So that's all we've really seen him do well, is be in the slot. I know a lot of people, especially before this year, people were saying, put Avonte Maddox at safety. That's not something that the Eagles seem like they want to do. So I'm not even going to keep bringing that up. I will say, if you look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming into the Eagles, one knock on him was that he had so many slot reps, right? That he had so many third safety reps. So that brings some that tells me that we have that type of versatility in a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, where we might not have that in Avonte Maddox, right? So, and then you also add it in. You also add to that James Bradbury is going to be a pretty penny, right? James Bradbury is going to command some money. If you came up to me and said, we're going to swap Avonte Maddox for a third-round pick, and in lieu of that, we're going to be able to keep Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and James Bradbury, look, I feel comfortable with Josiah Scott. I feel comfortable with Zach McPherson. I think that that's smart. If Avonte Maddox becomes the doorway to keeping more players on this team, I think you really have to look at that as an option. There's this Eagles team, and look, this Eagles fan base is becoming a little bit too emotional. I've seen people say, bring Malcolm Jenkins back. That man can barely walk. Like, we have to be realistic. This team is now looking towards the future. The Eagles are going to see a big turnaround in players, in the guys that we have here. Avonte Maddox might be a guy that makes a lot of sense to go ahead and put on that trade block. All right. Now, obviously, we don't have to think about this till after February, right? Because in February, we got a Super Bowl to win. But look, man, you have to use what you have to get what you need. And I don't feel like having Avonte Maddox instead of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and James Bradbury is a win for this team. I just don't. And again, he is having a great year, probably one of his best years until he got injured. And that sucks. But that's when you have to utilize their high ceiling, utilize their high price right now, and go ahead and get you some of the guys that you definitely need. James Bradbury is an interesting guy because it's like, do you maybe just trust Zach McPherson there? I said that I trust Zach McPherson in the slot, right? I said that Josiah Scott is good in the slot. So maybe you say, hey, we can trust Zach McPherson as that quarterback number 2. We don't need James Bradberry. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe that's how people feel. And that's okay too. I just want to start this conversation because I think in this offseason, we're going to have to get rid of somebody that we don't, or we're just not going to be able to re-sign someone that we think we really need to. So it's going to be an interesting offseason as far as these contracts go. So I'm going to start the uncomfortable conversation right now. So the question is, and I want you guys to answer it in the comments. I know this is a very short video, but I just wanted to get this out there. The question is, if it means keeping James Bradberry, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, if it means keeping other positions that we need, are you willing to trade Avonte Maddox? And what would it cost? What would the cost be? So let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. But other than that, y'all know what it is, man. It is Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here. So peace. Yeah, peace. That was it.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird game nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling with Philly the podcast.